Hello everyone and welcome to a Minecraft tutorial. My name is Yash and today we are going to be going over the /dialog command. For this tutorial I'm going to be on my PC and I'm also on Minecraft Bedrock edition and I'm currently on version 1.17.10. If I sound kind of funny it's because I'm still getting over being ill recently, so just bear with me. But with that, let's go ahead and get right into it. First thing that we need to do is we need to create a behavior pack. Now I know there's a lot of other tutorials out there that show you how to create a behavior pack. Feel free to go out there and check out one of those videos. We're just going to briefly go over it as if you don't already know how to do it. If you do, you can go ahead and skip ahead. So what you're seeing on the screen right now is some screenshots. Now for some reason I could not get my recording program to get a full screen of my window, so I decided to take screenshots instead. But we're going to go over each screenshot. Now what you're seeing on the screen right now is actually a behavior pack. It doesn't matter what it's called, but in this case I called it Fallen Angels /dialog. Now Fallen Angels is the world that I'm working on, and dialogue is just to title it just for this purpose. But in the behavior pack, you're going to typically have, let's say, something like this. You'll have a folder that will have dialogue. You'll have a JSON file that will be called manifest, and usually you'll have a PNG file that is the pack icon. The pack icon is not really needed, but it does give that little extra customization. So the first thing you're going to do is create a folder in general. It doesn't matter what it's called. You don't have to call it exactly what I've called it here. And within that folder, you're going to have these three things. Now, as I said, the PNG is not necessary, but the JSON file is, and we're going to go over that first. So now what you're seeing is actually the manifest.json file. I've opened it up in Notepad. You can use whatever editor you want to use. Now what you want to do is if you need to go ahead and pause the video, and you can pretty much duplicate what I've done here. I'll describe it real quick. The name and the description. So there's the name, which is Fallen Angels Dialogue, the description at the top and the bottom there says created by me. Those can be changed to whatever you want. So the only thing that you need to actually change on this that is required is the UUID number. There will be a generator link in the description, and it's exactly how I did it. You just go to that link, you type in exactly how many you need to generate, you click on generate, and it gives you some brand new numbers. And what you need to do is you need to take one of those numbers and put it up top, and then take the second number and put it on bottom. Hopefully that makes sense, but if you want to just basically copy what I have and change those numbers, you should be good to go. Okay, so what you're seeing on the screen now is I've opened up the dialog folder, and within that folder I've created two folders. Obviously test 1 and test 2. Within the dialog folder itself, you do not need to have two test folders. This is just what I made and for testing purposes. What I was trying to figure out is if you were able to create dialogue scenes but then subcategorize them within folders, and would it still be able to find the scene that you created? And the answer is yes. So within this dialog folder, you do not have to have it set up exactly the same way I do. You can have all of your files within this with no subcategorizing, or if you have a ton of dialogue that you're going to create, you can have it in chapter 1, chapter 2, or a certain NPC name, or however you want to create it. This is again just a sample. So now we're going to go ahead and open up the test 1 folder, and within that I have two different JSON files. I have scene 1 and scene 2. Again, they don't have to be named scene 1 and scene 2. I was just using that for testing purposes. So you can name it whatever you want. And then test2 folder, if you go back and open the test2 folder, I put an additional scene, scene number 3 in there to see if it would be able to read different scenes from different places. So now what you're seeing is you are seeing scene 1 of the JSON. Now we just went over how to create a JSON file, so it's the same kind of thing. Now if you want to exactly copy and paste what you're seeing on the screen, again, feel free to pause it, do so, and then keep playing. So this is the format which I found that will help you create different scenes for your NPC to actually speak, and it pops up and all that stuff. I tried to break it up a little bit. So up top is the formatting version. Then after scenes, it has a square bracket. Then there's a little bit of a space. Then you see the scene tag, name, text, commands, all this stuff. And then at the very bottom is the closing brackets. So the formatting version, I created that, and then within those square brackets is actually the scene that you're going to create. So what is a scene? So the scene tag is going to be the thing that you're actually referring to. This is going to be the string name that you're referring to right here. So I have test1. The NPC name is going to be the name that pops up at the top of the dialog box. So you can customize exactly what the name is. The text is obviously whatever you want the NPC to say. I did just something very simple there. The on open, on close, and button commands are next. For this example, I didn't do anything for on open or on close. The buttons, and again, this is assuming that you guys know how to do NPCs. I'm sure a lot of you do. So the buttons are the things that you press at the bottom. And as you can see, I have 1, 2, 3 buttons named second, third, and fourth. You can see the actual command that I put within that button. So you press the button and that is the command that runs. You can have more than one command, just like you would normally in an NPC. And this is the commands that I found work best. Now there are different ones. There's dialog open and then there's /dialog change. I've had some issues with /dialog change personally, and I will show a little bit of my testing. So this is scene number 1. Again, pause it and type it up if you need to. And now let's go on to scene number 2. Now this is scene number 2, and it's very similar. In fact, it's almost identical. Same formatting, same scene. It's just the scene is now named test2. The NPC, just for testing purposes, I said test2. The text says the second dialog box, so on and so forth. Now the only other change I did was the first button said second on scene 1, but on scene 2 it goes back to scene 1. Now scene number 3, I tried a little something different here because I was testing the first thing I tested was how many buttons could you put. Now I'm pretty sure it's 6. I haven't done that. So I've only done 3 in testing, but up to 6 I would assume is the maximum. So I found out the formatting in which to do buttons, which you can see here on the scene 3. And the next thing I wanted to know was about adding multiple scenes within the same JSON file, which you can in fact do. So it's just the same exact formatting, same everything. Again, you put in the scene 3. This is the third dialog box. Here's some buttons, right? The same exact thing we just did with the other two. But then at the bottom, you can see the, I want to say it's the curly bracket. I have a comma after it. And then I essentially paste another scene. What I did was I copy pasted the same scene and changed it. In order to separate them, you have to have that comma. So yes, you can in fact have multiple scenes within the same file. So that is why I said within the dialog folder itself, it doesn't matter if you have folders called test1 or test2 or chapter 1 or whatever you want to call it. It also doesn't matter how many files you have within that, as long as it's in the same formatting. And if you separate it like this, you can have everything in one file. Excuse me. But if you want to spread it out, you can obviously do it in folders and make it into different files, JSON files, and all that. So this is just showing you that yes, you can do multiple buttons. Yes, you can do multiple scenes. And this is one way that I have found that does in fact work. And then here's the bottom of the same scene3 JSON. As you can see, the comma, I just put in a thanks for watching kind of thing for test number 4, and then it closes out the exact same way as the previous ones. Alright, so now that you've created your behavior pack with your dialog folder, your JSON files, your scenes, all of that stuff, what you're going to do is you need to navigate yourself to what you're seeing on the screen. It should be something very similar. Now you could always go ahead and look up how to actually get to the Mojang files, but essentially you're going to go to app data, local, packages. You're going to find one that says Microsoft.Minecraft. Then you're going to go to local state, games, and then com.mojang. Now what you're going to do is you're actually going to open up the development behavior packs folder, and within that folder you're going to now paste or copy over the behavior pack that you just created. And in fact, the document that I was referring to did specifically say the development behavior packs folder. Now if you want to later on make some changes to your scenes or create more or all of that, this is where you would go, is the development behavior packs, and you'd open up your dialog folder and you'd obviously go into your files and make the changes. It's very likely, I think at least in this point in time, that you will have to basically close and restart every time. As far as I know, you are not able to use the /reload command because it's in developmental behavior packs. It's not actually behavior packs. Just be aware that you may have to actually close and restart your game when you make the changes. I could totally be wrong though, so don't hold me to it. Alright, so now we're back on Minecraft, and I just want to show you, I'm going to go into settings, and I'm going to go down into storage. These are obviously my worlds, and these are the behavior packs. Now, again, I'm working on my world called Fallen Angels, but the one that we're talking about right here is the NPC dialogue. So here are my worlds right here. We're going to go into the little edit button here. You're going to scroll down to your behavior packs, and it should appear here in the My Packs section. Now I've already added it, but what you do is you click on it. See, here it is right here. And it will say activate. You then press activate and it will go into this drop down here. Alright, so here we are in the world, and as you can see, I have a couple NPCs laid out just for this demonstration. So let's go ahead and go over exactly kind of what we're looking at here. So a normal NPC, this one has not been changed. This one is just a normal NPC. Now I am in creative mode. As you can see, NPC name has been changed. There's no dialogue here. There are no advanced settings, no command buttons, and nothing, right? So this is just, I got the spawn egg for it, I placed it down, and that's it. So that's your normal NPC. Okay, now what you see here is a normal NPC with on enter. Now what that means is NPC name is fine, there's no dialogue, but on the advanced settings, we have these things now, which is a new update, I believe. We used to have just button mode, but now we have on enter and on exit, or I could be remembering that wrong, in which case ignore what I just said, but I'm pretty sure that these two buttons, or the layout for them maybe, is a little bit different. So on enter, again, is when you first interact with the NPC, and these are the commands that are going to initiate as soon as that happens. So in this particular test, I have the dialog to open, and then it should open up the test one. Now, one thing I didn't mention, which is very important to mention, is this at initiator. Now, this is a new selector, which I believe is only for NPCs, and essentially this is really good for RPGs and stuff like that, because it will only target the person who initiated the contact with the NPC. So you can have multiple people talking to the same NPC, and they will have either different results or the same conversation over multiple people. Now, the reason why this is important is because if you are doing a quest line or you have different outcomes that you want for different people, you can do this and still have the same dialogue conversation for new people that start a conversation after, and again, different outcomes. That way, if someone was to trigger this and change it in some way, it would not affect the person coming in afterwards to talk to the NPC. It would come up exactly the same way it did for that person, but it wouldn't end up changing anything. So for this example, I have /dialog open at entity. You have to put the type equals NPC or type equals Minecraft :NPC, whatever works. And you don't have to put a radius, but you have to be able to select only one NPC. And this NPC has to be loaded in, whether it is someone who is nearby, like right in front of my character, like right now, or in a ticking area or something like that. It has to basically open a dialogue from an NPC somewhere. Now, the nice thing about scenes, which in this case, as you can see, it says test 1, is you are able to change the name of the NPC, what the dialogue is, all of that stuff. So the NPC itself could be a completely blank one, like the first one. And as I showed you, this particular NPC has no name, no dialogue, nothing. But it will open the scene that actually changes its name and will change the dialogue. And it will actually add buttons too. So it just has to be an NPC. So let's go ahead and test this out. So we're in adventure mode now. As you can see, I click on the normal one, nothing. Now, in theory, on enter, it should work. Right? The only problem is that it doesn't really work. And that's kind of been my issue with the on enter thing. It hasn't really worked. So I'm not honestly really sure what is going on there. So this is not really a method I would suggest, unless of course I'm doing it wrong, which I could be, but you just saw exactly what I had in the NPC. If you can get it to work, awesome. Hopefully that will help you get started. Alright, now this is my preferred method, and we're actually going to skip it for now. We're going to go to the last method that I tried here, which is a normal NPC, and change first dialogue. So for this one, was on enter, and it said open. Didn't really work. However, change, it kind of works. It kind of works, but it's not really a preferred method I would suggest. So let me just kind of show you here. Okay, so I'm in creative. Now I have two, and there's a reason why I have two. Okay, now let me see if I remember which one's which. So NPC has nothing in it, and in the advanced settings here, we have on enter, we have dialogue change, entity, the scene that you're changing it to, and it's going to target the initiator or the person who initiated the dialogue. Okay, and that's on enter. Okay, this one is almost the same. Okay, it's a normal NPC. There's no dialogue. There is a button. The button, it's the exact same command, as the one I just showed you, but I have it in button form. So let's go back to this guy, check NPC, whatever. We're going to go into adventure mode, and we're going to go ahead and click on this. Okay, now remember it was blank, no dialogue, nothing like that. This was the one that was going to be on enter. Okay, so we click it, and nothing happens. Okay, and now something happened. So I clicked on it again, and as you can see, it opens up the first test one, first dialog box. It has second, third, and fourth, right? And I can go between these, and you can see it's working because it actually changes the name and the dialogue, right? Okay. Now that sounds really good. Okay, but excuse me. Let's go back into creative, and I'm going to go ahead and select this person again. Let's go to edit dialogue. It popped up again. Now, why is that? I don't know. If I go into advanced settings, this is not the command, and there's no button, right? So you can see that something changed. So on enter, it basically changed the NPC, and then just it kind of messed it up. Now maybe if you had an on exit part that would change it back to the first dialogue, maybe that would work. I didn't actually test that, but in theory that could possibly work. But what happened, I think, is something interacted with it, and then it changed the NPC and like what it does. Like it's not blank anymore. Now you might say, oh, well, just change it back. That's fine. Okay, I'll change it back here. I will delete the button. Okay, so it's not there. Let's go to edit dialogue. Oh, it's still there. That's weird. Let's go to advanced settings. There's nothing there. Okay, so that's kind of weird. Now if I go back into it, okay, it's still there, and then I go to advanced settings, there's nothing there. Look at that. It just automatically creates a button. If I say add command, look, it creates the buttons already. So this might be a little difficult for editing purposes. If I wanted to change the way this NPC works, this might be a little difficult. Now, don't get me wrong, this seems to work, but again, maybe later on it might be a little confusing. You may get frustrated. You may just say screw it and just try again. Now this one again is a button, okay, and I just want to show, here it is again, a button, change first. It's the same exact code as the other one, but this is a button form and not on enter. So let's go ahead and let's go to adventure mode real quick. This one, I click the button, okay, nothing happens, that's weird, but then it changes to the first one and it works in exactly the same way. Okay, right, and I go back and it works again. Now let's go back to creative, and oh, look, it's the same exact thing. I didn't create a, well, I created a button, but this wasn't what it was. I delete, I back out, I go back in, it's still there, right? I add a command back, it's another button. So again, the change, the slash dialog change is a little weird, If you use it, I feel like if you use it within the NPC, it will actually change the NPC. So I feel like it's not the method that is best. That's just kind of how it seems to work. Take it or leave it. Now let's go back to this one, because this is the method out of the, I guess, well, 3 technically. This is the method that I prefer and I would suggest. So again, this is a normal NPC and normal first dialogue. Now what I meant by that is the first scene, the test 1 scene that we created, I actually just put in here. I forgot to change the name, but that's not a big deal. But the text for the first scene I put in here. The buttons I created, which you can see here, it's just a button and it just opens dialogue. It doesn't change dialogue, it opens dialogue, and that's the big difference in my opinion. Okay, so we got the three buttons just like that. So now let's go back to adventure, and we're going to click on it, and it opens up as if just like the other one. This is the first one, so let's click second. Here we go. You can see test 2. Now if I click on test, or the first one, it does say test 1. Again, I forgot to change the name, but no big deal. But you can go back and forth between them just like normal. Now the difference is that if I was to, right, and then normal in adventure, if I was to go back into creative, the difference for me is that the dialogue is still the first one and the buttons haven't changed whatsoever because I opened a dialogue instead of changing a dialogue. Now it's possible that you could open a dialogue and then change that one after, kind of thing, which would then be a different instance. I think it'd be a different instance of a dialogue and it wouldn't actually change what's within the NPC or something like that, but I don't know. I prefer the open, so that's kind of what I used in this example. So out of the three methods here, this is the one I would suggest. This is the one I'm going to use anyway. It's very preferred, unless they make it a little bit easier in the future, which I'm sure they will. This is what I would suggest. What I'm going to do is go into adventure one more time. And again, so this is the first one. Here's the second one, third, go back to first, go back to third, and then the fourth is just a thank you for watching. You know, be sure to like and subscribe if you did like this video. I do appreciate you guys watching. Hopefully it helps some of you. I mean, that was the main point of making this. Thank you guys for hanging out. Thanks for watching, and take care.